What's going on YouTube? Misterwheelz here once again, welcoming you to another video. This is going to be another vlogging video where I share some of my life experiences. And some of you may remember that about three or 4 months ago now, I did a video entitled My Life Story Living with a Disability, where I basically explained how I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy and, what it was like to live with a disability and some of the things I've been through, both good and bad. And my aunt encouraged me to do that video, and I've been encouraged since then to talk more about my experiences. So in this video, it's like a sequel to the first one I did. I'm going to talk about my experience being a 1996 Olympic torchbearer, and for those of you who haven't seen the first video yet, click the annotation there and you can see that video. And just before I get started, I'm going to start with some of the events surrounding my life leading up to what I would say is probably the thing that I'm most the biggest accomplishment in my life, and that was being part of the 1996 Olympic torch relay. I'll tell you how that came to be and what I had to do in order to be a part of that big event. But first, as always, guys, I'd ask you to please give this video a like, and please subscribe to my channel. I could really use the support, and I have a lot of good content that you can also check out, so hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter at Misterwheelz86, and give my Facebook fan page a like, Misterwheelz86. And I'm also going to put a link down below to my Marty 2K12 tour, where you can see some of the pictures of me from my 1996 Olympic torch relay. In 2012, I did a motivational speaking tour at my local college, and we created a Facebook page, so that link will be in the description box below. And let's get started with this story. Okay, so before I get into exactly what led me to the Olympic torch relay, you gotta understand that in 1996 I was 10 years old, and I was coming off of some major surgeries. I'd been in and out of the hospital since I was 8 years old, and when I was 8, I had my last major surgery, which was hamstring releases. So it took me about a year to recover from that, and maybe in a future video I will explain all of my surgeries in greater detail. But the point I'm trying to make there is I was just gaining my independence, once I turned, 9.5 to 10 years old. And up until that point, I had a lot of people still helping me do things. I've come a long way since then. I live on my own now. I'm independent. But back then, I was just starting to, and I was just starting to gain more of my independence and do things for myself a lot more. And I came home from school one day in early spring. It was probably, I would say April, maybe late March. And I was sitting at the kitchen table, probably ready to do my homework, as I usually was at that time. And my mom, I specifically remember her getting off the phone. She'd been talking to people from Variety Village, which the Variety Club charity is a charity. It's a Canadian charity, and they have a Variety Village is a sports complex for people with disabilities, or differently able people, as I like to say. And it's a place for anybody, but they specialize in helping people with disabilities. And my mom had got this phone call that there was going to be a pledge program leading up to their to this big event that Variety Village holds called the Sunshine Games. It was one of their athletic games that they have. There were several throughout the year, and the pledge program, it was basically people had 9 days to raise as much money as they could for the charity, and first prize was going to be 1 kilometer in the 1996 Olympic torch relay. And please understand that at this time I didn't know what the Olympics were. I was only 10 years old. I briefly remember the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona, Spain. So I really didn't know what the Olympics were, let alone the torch relay. So my mom, hearing about this contest, gave me a bit of a crash course in what exactly the Olympic torch relay was, the journey of the Olympic flame from Athens, Greece to wherever the hosting Olympic city was. In this case, it was Atlanta, Georgia, and what it meant and that sort of thing. So basically what came out of that first conversation when I was sitting at the kitchen table was that I was going to enter this contest and raise as much money as I could. And it started out very innocently. I started calling my immediate family, aunts, uncles, grandparents, and they said, yeah, we'll sponsor you. So, I did that within the first couple hours of hearing about this event. I think actually what had happened was my mom must have got a package in the mail with pledge forms, because as I can remember, I had the pledge forms right from the point where I decided that I was going to take part in this contest. And so I had started calling immediate family, and they had agreed to sponsor me and support me. And then I think later that, within a couple hours, I was going door to door. And that was, this was all well and good, but we had, this had to be done, was the most amount of money in 9 days. So things started to happen very quickly. My mom approached the local radio station, and sure enough, within a few days of starting this process, I was on the local radio station, and the response on the radio station was really quite overwhelming, and people started to come forward and pledge money to my cause and what I was trying to do. And being on the radio was a big achievement, and that's where I got probably a good chunk of the money that I raised came from being on the radio, the local morning show. But the other big thing was McDonald's. The owner of McDonald's in my town, I'm from Cobourg, Ontario, and it's just a small town. It was only about 15,000 people back then. The owner decided that he was going to have what he called a McMarty Day, and $1 from the sale of every Big Mac went to my fundraising effort for Variety Village. And by that point, when they had the McMarty Day, it was right before the end of the 9-day period that I had to raise all this money. And by then, I should point out that by that point, CFTL News out of Toronto had gotten wind of my story, and I was starting to gain some national publicity for what I was doing, and the fact that the town of Cobourg, being a small community, had really rallied around me. Because aside from being on the radio and having the McMarty Day and going door to door and asking my family, people started coming to my house, my parents' house, and giving, rolls of just change and pledging, $500. So I wasn't getting a lot of big sponsors, but I was getting just a lot of quantity in terms of the amount of sponsors. And of course, the radio and McMarty Day was that's where a lot of the money came from. And my grand total was $19,600 in a total of 9 days. And when the Sunshine Games, the event in which the pledge program was for, came up, the day of that event, they totaled all the pledges up beforehand, and I didn't win. I'd actually come in second, and I lost to a businessman out of Toronto, because what happened at the Sunshine Games back then, I haven't been to that event in years, but I went to it when I was a lot younger. In 1996 was my first year, and what happened was companies would get involved with that event, and they would make up teams for the sporting events that were held. And so the event itself had a lot of corporate sponsors, and a businessman that worked for H&K had actually won first place. And but the thing was, the difference between what I was doing and what this gentleman, his name was Barry, what Barry was doing was he was getting $1,000 sponsors at a time. And I found out after the torch relay, and we'd been to Atlanta and everything, I found out after the fact that Barry had actually gone to the organizers and told them that he wanted me to win, because he heard about what I was doing and what the response that I was getting in the town of Coburg, and he wanted me to win because, it was I was working a lot harder to get sponsors, and I wasn't getting $1,000 sponsors at a time. And a lot of his sponsors were corporate sponsors and stuff like that. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself telling you that. But basically what happened at the Sunshine Games was my family knew ahead of time that I didn't win. The event went on as planned, and it was a great day, a lot of fun. And then as they were to announce the winner, before they did, George Cohen, who was the president of McDonald's Canada at the time, this is the guy that worked with Ray Kroc, who's the founder of McDonald's. George came out on stage and said that he had just got off the phone with Coca-Cola, who was the main sponsor of the Olympic torch relay, and they were going to open up a spot not only for the first place person, but for myself and the third place winner as well. So I got, in a stroke of luck, having good fortune, I was able to go and participate in this great Olympic event. Basically what happened from there was, I got to meet George Cohen. He had, again, I got to go because the organizers had heard about what I had done, and George had heard about what I had done, and they were just, they were very happy to see that I had put in the effort that I had, and my family and my town had rallied around me for me to be able to raise almost $20,000 for this charity. And so I got to meet George, and we actually had a second day at McDonald's where from there, CFTO News came down again, because they did one news story when I was actually in the middle of fundraising. Then they came down again, and we had like another big party where I got to thank everybody for helping me, and George Cohan presented me with it was like a replica Canadian Olympic tracksuit. The one that the athletes wore was white with a big Canadian flag and like the Olympic flame on it right here, and mine was black with the same red. Mine was black, and then basically everything else was the same, just like the athletes' version. And what I mean by that is that was the tracksuit that the athletes wore at the opening ceremonies. I also got a very nice Roots jacket. Roots is a clothing store, and they gave me like a red and white Canada jacket. It was almost like a leather jacket, but it was some other sort of fabric. And it had 1996 on the sleeve and stuff. So they had that party, and also this was after the event when I knew I was already going to Atlanta, and I had really gained some national exposure at this point, and it was going to get to be even more. But I got to meet my own media person that day. I believe, now my mom says that his name was Marty, but I remember that his name was Mitch. And, you know, I remember him telling me, you know, if you don't want to talk to the media, that's what he was there for. If I needed anything in terms of dealing with the media, he was the guy I dealt with. And there's more on that in a minute. So let me talk about actually going to Atlanta and what happened when we got there. You know, we were there for just a few days. That's what this trip was for. And I didn't carry, I was one of 9 Canadians to carry the Olympic torch, and we didn't actually do our part of the relay in Atlanta. We actually drove 4 hours further. I don't know whether it was further south, but we drove 4 hours to Montgomery, Alabama, and that's where all of us 9 Canadians did our portion of the torch relay at 8 o'clock in the morning on July 1st, which is Canada Day. And leading up to that, we got to Atlanta, and Coca-Cola treated us like royalty. Everywhere we went, whether it was like out for dinner or we went to the World of Coca-Cola, everywhere we went, we were treated like royalty. Any travel we did within the city, it was like we were put on Coca-Cola buses where they put like these big coolers where like any kind of Coke you wanted, regular Coke, Diet Coke, Powerade, whatever water they had at whatever water was produced by Coca-Cola, any of their products was put in this cooler, and it was free to us. And they took us to the athletes' village. We were put into a VIP suite, and again, pretty much they had coolers along the wall, like the grocery style coolers that you see in a grocery store, filled with any kind of Coke product you could want. I remember they had this like type of frozen Minute Maid, almost like frozen yogurt, and I had one of those when we were at the athletes' village. I might have actually had a couple of them. They were very good. I've never seen them in Canada, and going to Atlanta was my first exposure to cherry Coke, and they only make that at the time they only made it in the States, and it's since been in Canada, but not on a regular basis. So my point there is, the trip itself was amazing. We did more than just the Olympic torch relay, but I need to point out that everything was scheduled. I mean, from the time we woke up every day, we were only there for 3-4 days, but everything was scheduled, from the meals that we ate together as a group. That was the 9 of us Canadian torchbearers and everybody's family. And anywhere I went that was like a public place, I usually had to do an interview. I remember going into the entrance of the World of Coca-Cola, and we get to the courtesy desk, and there was a phone call from me from somebody from Canada wanting to know about my experience at the time, because, you know, on top of having my own media guy, CFTO News sent a reporter and a camera crew down to film everything. And I was constantly doing interviews. And I told you earlier in the video that I had a media person. Well, that was important because I had 1 hour a day where I was allowed to have some downtime, and I usually went swimming. Keep in mind, I was only 10 years old, and this was a big eye-opening experience to me. I wasn't used to being a celebrity or anything like that. So one day, one of the days we were down there, when I was planning to go swimming, and I did, and my media person came to my parents and said, he said, NBC wants to do an exclusive interview with Marty, and, you know, my parents were thrilled about that, but they said, you're going to have to ask Marty because, you know, that's his time to go swimming. And there was a little tiny games room in the hotel, and I usually spent a lot of time there as well, whenever I could. And basically, when NBC wanted to do the video interview, I said no. And that may shock some of you because NBC is this huge, you know, national company, and it would have been even more national exposure, but you know, I was, the amount of media coverage I was already getting and just the non-stop go was actually quite tiring, and I needed that, you know, hour a day that, you know, nothing was scheduled, just to kind of recharge, and so I didn't do the interview with NBC, but when I actually did after my kilometer of the torch relay, everybody was lined up on either side of the road. We did it on a stretch of highway, and NBC was the first microphone in my face right after I came off the road, once I'd passed the torch off, and so they got their interview anyway. So that's basically it. That was my experience in '96. You know, it was the best thing I've ever done. I pushed myself the entire kilometer stretch that I had the torch for. The torch was attached to my wheelchair. If you go to my Marty 2K12 page on Facebook, you can see that. I don't know whether you'll be able to see it, but my hair was actually on fire a little bit, and I have a picture of that, me carrying the torch, and that picture where my hair was on fire is actually, I have that blown up and on my wall. But yeah, that was, I mean, what else can I say? The Olympics are a huge event. Didn't actually get to be part of the actual Olympics, but the torch relay was amazing, and it was a once in a lifetime experience. So I just wanted to share that with people, and I hope that you've stuck with me through this whole video. And as always, guys, before I sign off here, once again, please give this video a like, and please subscribe to my channel for more videos. You can follow me on Twitter at Sledgehead86, and like my Facebook fan page, Misterwheelz86. Don't forget to share this video. And if you want to know more, if I didn't talk about, if there was something you want to know more about, feel free to leave me a comment down below, and I'll try to answer your question. But that's all I have for right now. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.